Get some analysis on this now from Elias Hanna. He joins me from Beirut. He's a retired Lebanese army general. Let's just start with that first point, that military officials in Israel say they're withdrawing 5 brigades because actually they don't need them anymore because they've achieved certain objectives, they say, without naming them. If they have achieved objectives, what would you say they've achieved?
First, let me tell you something, that every war has to end. And this war is culminating and maybe is leading the Israelis to what we call the diminishing return in, economic philosophy. There is many reasons for, withdrawing these troops. The first and foremost is social and economic for the Israeli. They are the reserve. They are the engine of the Israeli economy. Prior to the war, they were like between 100,000 and 50,000. And during the war, they were called, and the sum total was like 450,000. So this is the first one. The second one is that this strategy, because the war is culminating, they are going from phase 2 to phase 3, which means from the low intensity conflict to from the high intensity conflict, to the low intensity conflict. So they don't need in the second phase that number of brigades. Why? Because the second phase, low intensity conflict, will be based on elite troops collecting data, collecting information and tactical intelligence, and really attacking by surprise any threat in, on all of Gaza. And last but not least, there is the American pressure, you know what I mean? So all of this together, they are really culminating, and they are trying to withdraw. How much they have achieved? I think that they are going into what we call two kind of operation on the northern side, between clearing and holding. In Jabalia and Ashuja'iyya, they are trying also continuing to clear from Hamas's fighters, and maybe Sheikh Radwan and Beit Lahya and Beit Hanun, they are trying to go into the second phase, which is to hold the terrain, and then withdrawing and encircling the northern of Gaza and going into the low-intensity conflict.
You talk about this new phase, low intensity. I'm just wondering how that fits into the conflict itself. We've just seen Hamas begin on the stroke of New Year, firing rockets at several regions, in particular at Tel Aviv. Do you see Hamas changing their approach in any way?
No, I mean, the Hamas's missiles, they declined from 75 a day to 26 or something like that. Maybe they are saving their reserve or their arsenal to different kind of operation, and maybe as far as Israeli went inside Gaza, I mean, they are a little bit squeezed. However, launching these missiles into the interior, into the depth of Israel, means that Hamas still functioning as a military unit, ambushes, attacks, especially in the north, and in Khan Yunis, the command and control is still functioning. And at the same time, we have seen, these kind of missiles. Why? Because in the mind of the Israeli army and in the minds of all armies in the world, they are seeking the main and decisive battle, and to win this battle and really measuring the success. So when you fire all this, after like 85 days, missile into the depth of Israel, so it maybe will put the Israeli army into questioning themselves. So that's why there is some differences and, conflict between the military side by Halevi, the military side, and the political side in Israel.
Again, getting back to that changing in the intensity of the conflict, as it progresses, if it does become less intense, but a different element to the fighting, who benefits from that? Who does it suit the most?
I mean, it depends how the Hamas will hold, because in the mind and the strategy of Hamas, usually they attack tactically and defend strategically. For the Israelis, they defend tactically, but strategically they have, the offensive. So now both of them are using the highest degree of the strategic defense of Hamas and the strategic offensive of the Israelis. So it depends how much Hamas can change the dynamics, the space, the architecture of Hamas in order to hold for a longer time and inflict into the Israelis a high degree of casualties. So time is crucial in this kind of war.
Appreciate your time, Elias. My guest, Elias Hanna, who's a retired Lebanese Army general.